It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. I'm glad y'all here. You know, in June 27th to be exact, of 2011, I was at work. And I got a call from my middle sister who sounded distraught, but she was calm and measured, interestingly enough. And she let me know that they had been in a car accident, she and my mother. And she said, they're telling me Mama didn't make it. I'm in the car, Nicole, and she's not in here. That day, I learned that Jonathan Ross had stolen a car, and he was drinking, and he was going 70 plus miles an hour, I think, in a largely residential area. And my mother and sister and my sister's friend had just left the church, doing some community service work over there. And Jonathan Ross murdered my mother. In fact, he drug her body and got out of the car, saw her, and ran. Why do I tell you that? Because the police department issued a probable cause statement the next day. Jonathan Ross had been detained by some citizens, and he was in jail. We went to court, and there were lots of people there. You know, when something happens right away, there's lots of people there. Like, there wasn't even room in the courtroom when they read all of the complaints against him. I think there were 8. You could hear audible gasps in the courtroom. It took 5 years, but ultimately, Jonathan Ross decided to forego trial and took a plea and is currently serving a 15-year sentence in prison. Now, that don't seem that odd because there wasn't any video. However, there were several witnesses on the street. When that happens, regardless of what you do for a living, when you murder someone, the first step is the probable cause statement from the police. And it's interesting that I didn't think about that until this whole situation happened. Now, let's imagine that the police decided that they weren't going to issue a probable cause statement. I don't know, maybe because Jonathan Ross was a child of the police chief or something. He's not, but let's just imagine. The prosecutor would be in a little bit of a quandary because without video, the prosecutor can't just take something to court. They need the probable cause statement from the police. That wasn't our situation. And it should rarely be the situation. So this week I had the opportunity of watching several ministers speak out. I've had the opportunity to watch several white people lift their voices up in allyship. And it's been overwhelming. Overwhelming in a good way, because typically it is the church who is screaming and yelling for love and compassion. And typically it is the white ally who is saying, oh, well, let's hear both sides. So it has been wonderful to see this flurry of interest and commitment. But I've been on the planet now for almost 44 years. By all accounts, I'm old. 40 is the age at which the federal government grants you protections because you are so old. Organizations will discriminate against you. Martin Luther King only lived to be 39. Jesus only lived to be 33. 44 is not young. I know we like to say 40 is the new 30. It is not. And in these 44 years, I have seen us get sparked into action. I remember it with Rodney King. I remember it with Amadou Diallo. I remember it when the young man was assaulted with a broomstick in police custody and sodomized. I remember it after Hurricane Katrina. And I'm excited about the interest now. But here's what I will tell you. Every time I went to court over those 5 years, every time fewer and fewer people were in the courtroom. So much so that when you contrast the courtroom on June 28th, 2011, to the courtroom in 2016, 15, when he was ultimately convicted, there was a ton of space. In fact, half the courtroom was filled with his family. There weren't people sprawling all out into the halls. Now, why do I tell you that? I tell you that because I didn't need extra people there. But I want you to know extra people weren't there. And so I need y'all, regardless of your role, to understand that progress is always followed by regression. People get sparked and get excited. Let me pause right now, because all the time I've been talking is the length of time that Mr. George Floyd had a knee on his neck. For all the times we get sparked into action, people get excited and they jump right in. They want to jump right in without understanding. They want to jump right in without acknowledging. They want to talk about where we go from here without revisiting the history of trauma, the history of abuse, the history of experiences. And so as such, they get tired. It's kind of like when I work out, I'm not consistent, but I can lose weight and get in shape really fast. I jump right in. I'll eat clean. I'll work out 6 days a week. And before you know it, I'm beach ready. Want to know how long I can keep it up? Not very long, because it ain't sustainable the way I do it. And so I liken social justice to a weight loss or healthy lifestyle challenge. I can't go to my cousin Troy Groves and say, hey, Troy, I want to look like Beyonce in 8 weeks. What do I do? Now, Troy's been living a life of fitness. Troy might roll his eyes inside, but he's going to help me. He tells me to eat right. He tells me to exercise. Tells me to stretch and rest. Tells me to not go too fast and be consistent. Make sure I do things in between the times that I see him. I say, and then I do none of the work. No one is surprised when I look up and my body still doesn't look like Beyonce. That's what my calls have felt like this week. Nicole, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And every time I'll tell you. But just know, if you take your foot off the pedal, you ain't gonna look like Beyonce. Jonathan Ross is serving 15 years in prison. And what you should know is, I didn't advocate for his 15-year sentence. And I didn't advocate for his 15-year sentence because when I took a look at the history of systemic challenges against Jonathan Ross, I said, June 27, 2011 was a presenting issue. There were a lot of underlying root cause issues that got us here. It's kind of like rioting. When a brick goes through a window, that's the presenting issue. What are all the root cause challenges that got us here? It's hard work to look at it. And so if I have one request for you, I just have one. Don't send me a Candace Owens video. Keep it to yourself. Because for as much as I love the Lord and I believe that the Spirit of God is in me, I hate Candace Owens. And just for context, I need you to know I love Jonathan Ross. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got work to do.